The British government is absolutely obsessed and has a history of this obsession with chemical experimentation. We're seeing it recently with the new sun dimming proposal from the British government that's pledged, I believe, £50 million into, quote, dimming the sun.
We get one nice spring and the government is already trying to figure out how to ruin it.
I'm sure you're going to get into it, but I saw a few headlines about this a week or two ago and didn't bother reading. I thought it was nonsense. But what do they even mean? What does that? What are they actually suggesting?
We already have a dimmed sun most of the year round. It's called cloudy.
Yeah.
It's called being in Northwest Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to it's research and development into putting certain chemicals, creating like a layer of smog essentially in the atmosphere to block out the sun. Because when it's
burning
like
everywhere, global Los Angeles?
Yeah, essentially.
Global China.
They want to try and recreate like after a volcanic eruption with the ash cloud, it cools the temperature. So to counter,
they want to
warming.
recreate natural disasters.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant!
Essentially,
great start.
Why in Britain? I can get it if you live in the deserts of Arabia or something where it is too hot.
But in England,
it's unnecessarily
hardly
hot.
ever.
But yeah, like England.
Right at the same time as we're trying to implement as much solar panel technology as possible.
They're going to rob us of the 2 weeks we get in July of warmth.
Exactly. So I decided for this segment, I wanted to run through 5 real British chemical experiments, and if we have time, I'll do a bonus at the end, because this isn't the first time that the government has tried to do a lot of these chemical experimentations, just not in atmospheric terms, could be conceived as different, but actual chemical experimentation on humans. And I wanted to go through 5 of them with
Before we do, Samson was just highlighting that we should probably mention as well, we do have Academic Agents Trivium available on the website right now that you can purchase. That's the foundations of logic, rhetoric, and writing. They'll improve all of those different skills, great courses, and if you would like to take part in a free webinar, the next one that is taking place is next Thursday, May 22nd, between 7 and 8 p.m. British time. Go to the website and sign up for that now.
Cool. All right, so the first one, so this is 5. This is between 1953 and 1963. And it's called the Fluorescent Particle Trials. So between 1953 and 1964, the UK Ministry of Defence conducted a series of secret experiments known as the Fluorescent Particle Trials. These trials involved dispersing zinc cadmium sulfide, a fluorescent compound, over large areas of the country to simulate the spread of biological or chemical agents in the event of an attack. These particles, which glow under ultraviolet light, allowed scientists to track how agents might disperse in various environmental conditions. And the primary aim of this, so I'm just going to go to the next article.
Is the box not working? Just use the mouse.
Cool.
No. Oh, there we go.
Thank you very much. The primary aim was to assess the UK's vulnerability to airborne biological or chemical attacks, particularly from the Soviet Union during the Cold War, by releasing these particles from aircraft, ships, and vehicles. Researchers could study dispersion patterns and the potential reach of harmful agents. For instance, in one trial, a generator towed along a road near Frome in Somerset, releasing the chemicals for an hour, allowing scientists to monitor its spread. And these trials were conducted without public knowledge, of course, exposing millions of people across the UK to these particles. And while the Ministry of Defence maintained that the chemical was harmless, concerns arose due to cadmium's, the particular particles, classification as a potential human carcinogen.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So we're worried about nuclear fallout or chemical attack.
Essentially.
So we'll do a little bit of it.
We'll just do a little bit of
just
it, a sprinkle, just to see.
Just to see what happens.
Just a little bit of cancer never hurt anybody.
Of course not. If we go back to the Independent article, just again, it says the Independent writes, during the Cold War, the British government used the general public as unwitting biological and chemical warfare guinea pigs on a much greater scale than previously thought, according to new historical research. In more than 750 secret operations, hundreds of thousands of ordinary Britons were subjected to mock, quote, biological and chemical warfare attacks launched from aircraft, ships, and road vehicles. Pretty scary. But there's more. If we go to the next one, this one's called the DICE trials. Now, the DICE trials, called Defence Independent Chemical Evaluation, were a series of secret biological warfare experiments conducted by the UK and US militaries between 1971 and 75 in South Dorset in England. These trials aim to assess the feasibility of large area coverage for biological attacks and to test detection systems for airborne biological agents. So the objectives were to evaluate how effectively biological agents could be dispersed, once again, and to test performance of detection equipment, notably the US-developed XM19 detector, and the chemical used, which I'll be honest, I cannot pronounce the name if we go to the next one. It's this chemical. I can't pronounce that, but it's along with an anthrax simulant.
Serratia
marcescens, is that it, possibly?
So some sort of bacteria.
Yeah.
Dorset, of all places, what a lovely, idyllic
place.
Couldn't they do it?
No.
Couldn't they do it somewhere out in the Australian desert or the Mojave Desert? No, Dorset.
Dorset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not some island way out in the Pacific. No, Dorset. Okay, cool.
And of course, nobody obviously knew about it until later on. I
mentioned Portdown in my last segment.
That's why I sort of gave a bit of a nod.
Oh, okay.
So we're coming up.
Go ahead.
Coming up to that. But yeah, so you have an anthrax simulant as well, along with this particular chemical that was being used too. Number 3, the next one, called the sabotage trials. And that's the sabotage trials were a series of covert biological warfare experiments conducted by the UK government between 52 and 64. These trials aim to assess the vulnerability of London's infrastructure, particularly its underground tunnel networks and key government buildings to potential biological attacks. So there's a big theme here. And if we go to the next one, I believe, and the one after, sorry.
One thing I'll quickly say is, not that I'm trying to defend any of this, I wouldn't dream of it. I'm just saying, in the 50s and even the early 60s, the Cold War was very, very real. It's hard for us to really appreciate. You've just lived through, if you're old, if you're sort of 60, 70-year-old in the 1950s, 60s, you've known World War I, you've known World War II, where there's saturation bombing of civilian areas. You've known total war. The idea that the Ruskies might actually nuke you in 1955, or they might actually drop chemical, biological agents on you. When we saw how
brutal the Russians were towards the end as they were coming west as well.
Right.
They were not averse to just murdering civilians.
So not that I'm trying to defend any of this.
No.
I'm just saying it's a bit difficult for us to... It just seems completely insane for us now.
It is, yeah.
But at the time, it would have been, was a genuine worry. And how are we going to protect ourselves if this happens?
Yeah, there is, of course, all of that context is very necessary for understanding this. It's very different to do these kinds of experiments for those kinds of reasons, as opposed to, can we block out the sun for net zero?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it starts as that, right? And then when you look at the dates as well, it continues and continues and continues all the way to like the 90s as well, which we'll get to.
Like NATO. NATO makes sense in 1960. Doesn't really make sense in 2015.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's still here. We're still living with it. It's bigger and more powerful than ever, if anything. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. And in this article by the guy, it was 23 years ago, so a long time ago now. It says, it was lunchtime on London's Northern Line, deep underground. Passengers were getting on and off the tubes, as normal. 2 men boarded a train at Collier's Wood in South London, and as the train gathered speed towards its next stop, Tooting Broadway, one of them got up from his seat and dropped a small carton of face powder out the window. He could have been idly throwing away litter. As the train sped on, the carton hit the tracks and burst, out spewed millions of tiny spores, which began to spread throughout the dark tunnels. Dust swabs taken after 3 days and 2 weeks showed that the spores had spread as far up the line as Camden Town Station in North London, 10 miles away. This really happened, but the 2 men weren't terrorists, but government scientists. And the spores weren't anthrax spores, but harmless microorganisms designed to mimic, is it clandestine? Clandestine sabotage with anthrax. This was an official experiment in 1963, and it showed how easily saboteurs could inflict a potential devastating attack on Britain's capital.
See, to me, as Bo was saying there, I mean, this could have been something that they actually tried. The fact that they were testing it out to see what the results would be using harmless stuff, I mean, that's pretty reasonable to me. And it says you want to test where your weaknesses are, don't you?
The trials were conducted without public knowledge or consent, raising ethical concerns about the use of civilians in military experiments. While the agents used were considered harmless at the time, later assessments suggested that individuals with respiratory conditions could have been adversely affected if exposed to sufficient quantities. So, yeah, there's some ethical considerations there as well. This is a bizarre one, the next one. The spiderweb particle experiments. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
I've never heard of this.
The experiments were a series of, once again, biological warfare trials between 64 and 73. These experiments aimed to assess how biological agents could disperse and persist in various environments, particularly urban settings. In these trials, scientists attached harmless bacteria to the threads of spiders' webs placed inside boxes. The objective was to study how these bacteria would survive and spread under different environmental conditions. By analysing the dispersion patterns, researchers sought to understand the potential impact. And these experiments were carried out in multiple locations across the UK, including London's West End, Southampton, and Swindon. There you go. So Swindon mentioned.
Once again, brilliant.
Swindon mentioned. Yes.
These sites were chosen to represent diverse urban environments. The tests were conducted without public knowledge or consent, exposing large populations to the bacterial simulants. The bacteria used in these experiments were considered harmless at the time, once again. However, subsequent evaluations raised serious concerns about the potential health risks, especially for vulnerable individuals such as the elderly or those with respiratory conditions again. The secrecy surrounding these trials and the exposure of unsuspecting civilians have led to ethical debates about and public outcry. Some families in the affected areas have reported health issues, including birth defects, learning difficulties, and others, which they believe may be linked to these experiments as well.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's not good.
I saw Portdown mentioned there.
Yes, and which goes on to the final, or I guess number 5, which is the Portdown human testing program between 1940s and 1980s. When I heard you mention Portdown the next day, I sort of smiled and I thought, because I hadn't really heard of this before, so I was doing a lot of digging about it, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane, this entire thing.
It's our main research facility for loads of different things, actually, but chemical, biological, nerve agent.
Yeah,
stuff.
It's insane. So, what it is a wide-ranging series of secret chemical and biological warfare experiments conducted by the UK government at Portdown, the Ministry of Defence's Science and Technology Laboratory in Wiltshire. Over 4 decades, thousands of British servicemen and civilians were subjected to testing, often without informed consent. Portdown was central to Britain's research into chemical and biological weapons during and after World War II. The experiments were designed to test the effectiveness and safety thresholds of chemical and biological agents, develop defensive measures such as protective equipment and antidotes, and study how nerve agents like sarin, VX, and mustard gas affect the human body. Participants were exposed to a range of dangerous substances such as sarin nerve agent, mustard gas, CS gas, or tear gas. Has any of you been tear gas before?
No, I haven't actually.
Have you?
I have once in France during the Le Pen elections. Yeah,
I remember now you say that. Yeah. You did a video. It was on.
That's it. Yeah, I was obviously at the communists and all that were rioting, even though they won their election cycle, and the police came out.
France,
and
it's what they do.
Yeah, they love it. And they dispersed a load of tear gas, and the police had taken away my equipment just before because they were doing bag searches, and they found obviously like gloves and like like eye coverings and safety stuff. And I didn't have a press pass at the time. I'd left it at home stupidly, and so I couldn't prove that I was there on journalistic stuff, so they had to take it away. And I thought, no, I won't be tear gassed, and I did, and it is the worst thing ever.
Really?
Or what? Well, yeah, it was horrible. Like your whole face just burns from like, it feels like the inside, and like you just stream of like, I don't know, tears, and like at the back of your throat. It's like, I can't explain it. It's like being burnt at the back of your throat. It's very horrible. Do not recommend.
And that is the chemical process dialed down as much as possible, so no one dies.
Yeah,
or nearly no one dies.
Yeah, and it makes you just want to get out there.
I mean, for example, I know a little bit about VX.
Yes.
As something we developed at Portdown, and it's so insanely poisonous. I mean, a tiny, tiny amount can kill thousands and thousands and thousands of people. A tiny amount. Yeah. It's one of those things like building bigger and bigger nukes.
Yes.
At some point, we were like, us and the Americans, were like, should we stop developing?
Yeah.
Like
we're going a bit too far.
We're pretty sure the Russians aren't doing this. We're not losing a race for more and more poisonous nerve agents with the Russians. So why are we doing? So I think VX was about as far as it went. We were like, we can design and make things that are more poisonous than this, but maybe we just shouldn't. And yet it still exists, still there.
There was other stuff like LSD, part of mind control or truth serum experiments. Obviously, MK Ultra. You guys know about MK Ultra, and other hallucinogens, irritants, and incapacitating agents. So, around 20,000 servicemen were believed to have participated in this over these decades. Most were told that they were helping to develop cures or protective gear for the battlefield, but many did not fully understand the nature or risks of what they were being exposed to. If we go to the next one.
Even in some nuclear tests.
Yeah.
The British put people relatively close to it.
Yeah.
To see what happened. In the very early days, I'm talking the 1950s, our first nuclear tests.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good in hindsight, does it?
No. This was a famous case where a RAF volunteer, he was only 20 years old, this lad, in 1953, Ronald Madison, died after being exposed to sarin in a gas chamber in Portdown. And his death was initially covered up, only decades later was ruled as a unlawful killing at a second inquest in 2004. And I was reading... Oh man, I was actually reading into this a little bit more and like describing like his. I'm not going to go through it obviously because it's it's gruesome, but what this poor lad went through, like he thought he was just going to help with like getting over like the flu or something. It was some sort of getting over some sort of like disease or something, and they essentially poisoned him.
Join the RAF, they said.
Yeah.
Serve king and country, see the world, they said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just sit inside this gas chamber real quick, lad.
Yeah. It's
horrific. I've not heard of this person before. Alfred Thornhill. Not heard of him before.
Yeah. If we go to the next one. So they did an investigation into this, Operation Antela. It is just sad. But a bit more context, they obviously did, it wasn't just that, they did LSD experiments between the 50s and 60s, we all know a bit about that, in partnership with MI6 and inspired by US projects like MKUltra. Soldiers were giving LSD without knowing its effects to test its potential use in interrogation and battlefield disorientation. Many participants reported long-term psychological issues, investigation, and looking into, obviously, investigation and public scrutiny. This particular one, Operation Antela, they conducted a major investigation in the 90s where thousands of documents were declassified showing the scale of the testing and how much the government or the Ministry of Defence was doing to its own subjects, its own country. Several former participants filed lawsuits demanding acknowledgement and compensation, and in 2006, the MOD issued a statement of regret.
Oh.
Thanks.
Oh, well, that makes it all better.
And then they began paying compensation to some of those affected. So those are your 5. I do have a bonus if we do have time.
I don't think we do.
That's fine.
We've got Lads Hour very
worries.
soon. So
I'll mention it in passing, though. What is it? I want to know what it is. Just real quickly.
here's one for your homework, lads.
Yeah, here's one for your homework. Next one, RAF Rainmakers, Operation Cumulus, where the British government conducted weather modification experiments in 1952 in August, carried out by the RAF and scientists from Portdown as well, aiming to explore cloud seeding and artificial simulation of rain by dispersing substance into clouds. And people have suspected very highly that it led to the floods in 1952 in Lynmouth, the Lynmouth floods that killed over 30 people. I did a Substack, just to end it on that, I did a Substack where I submitted Freedom of Information requests to find all the original data, and they gave it to me. 262 pages, and I put it all on my Substack here, which you can go and check out if you like, if you want to read in more detail. I'm surprised that they gave it, but yeah, a lot of it is all the old data that Norman Baker, the old Liberal Democrat MP, was pressuring to release all of these experiments back in the early 2000s. So managed to retrieve it all back, and I'd like to have a conversation with him at some point, because I don't know him, but I would like to get in touch. So if someone could get me a contact for him, that would be very useful. But that's it.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.